Hookup on music featuring your main man, Tony the Sugar Baggy.
Hello, everybody. I am Tony, and I am the Sugar Baggy. And, well, I don't have a Chinese menu in my hand, and I am not walking through the streets of Soho in the rain, but I do wish I was a werewolf in London. But that being said, I'm really glad you're joining us tonight. To get started, got some sad news that actually dropped just mere hours ago that unfortunately isn't something I wanted to or was looking forward to starting the show with. But that is the unfortunate passing of Steve Albini. Really, really amazing musician, record producer, audio engineer. He's even written some really awesome articles. If you have not gotten an opportunity to read any of that, I would definitely suggest that you do that. I mean, he has worked from a range of artists, from the Breeders and PJ Harvey, and of course, as you may know him, and if not, he's of course worked with Nirvana on the In Utero album. But just such a huge force. Recently, and recently, like the last 30 years, he has spent a lot of time in Chicago. So losing somebody who has been important to the music scene has just been, it's not good. He's had lots of his own bands, though. One band that kind of is the band that kind of got me kind of looking into his direction musically after realizing he was an awesome producer or slash engineer. Because that's what's cool on some albums. He considers himself, an engineer and doesn't, don't call me producer. It seems like sometimes he liked that, and that was what was cool about him. But his band Big Black from 1981 to 1987, definitely, if you have not got a chance, check these guys out, because definitely, especially in the late 85 86 era, they move on to Touch and Go Records. But all around, the whole entire output of this band is really good, along with the other bands he was part of. Shellac is the his most recent band that he was a part of, and he was due to tour coming up. So that's what's really, really hurtful and sad about all of this, is that unfortunately a lot of people were looking forward to seeing him coming to town with a band called Off. But unfortunately, with his passing, I'm sure the band is going to be put on hiatus, if not, maybe not doing anything else. But again, you go through and you sit, and just only having a little bit of time to be able to go through some of his work and really sit and kind of take in all that he has been a part of. As an engineer, when I look, and one of his first things is he's involved with Urge Overkill. I'm a huge Urge Overkill fan, and to be frankly honest with you, before doing reviews on this, I was not even aware that he had been so involved in Urge Overkill in any degree. But that's what's cool about Steve, is that he was involved in quite a lot. The radio today just started blasting. XRT started playing different cuts that he has been a part of, and of course, Surfer Rosa by the Pixies is great album and a great example of his amazing producing abilities. But just all around, being able to sit back and dig through some of his albums, which of course I'm going to do in more in depth, only having a few hours before the show to really kind of take a lot of just what he was a part of in, and being able to have his own recording studio, being able to work with I wasn't even aware that he produced anything by Helmet until doing it. He was involved in just so much stuff. Of course, as mentioned a little while ago, he was involved with Nirvana and involved with producing the In Utero album. But interesting is that while doing research for this, is that I came across a writing that he had sent to Nirvana. And it's pretty interesting that, it pretty much the letter in detail pretty much says that, Nirvana should stick to their, philosophy of what they want to do and not change for anybody. And I think that's kind of why they ended up working with him, is just because that's kind of what he brought to all of the albums in which he was, involved with. After working with Nirvana, um, just again, you would think, oh, he's going to just kind of start doing more popular, more no, he continued to work with a lot of awesome, more under the radar bands like, Silkworm and Superchunk and the Drovers, and there's Tar, just quite a lot of different stuff that he has been a part of and been on. But again, um him working with Nirvana, and also I just him not wanting to, a lot of producers take what would be called a cut from future album sales if an album is popular. He did not do that. He stated, when he is completely done with his work on an album, that's it. What I liked is he kind of put it as to, if you build a house, you don't really go back 30 years later and say, hey, you should pay me, because your house is still standing. So I thought that was really cool. And just again, being able to kind of, you know, um, know that somebody like this has been around, a kind of, I've heard a little bit of thrown out there that there's more bigger producers that I'm not going to mention that, he was the opposite of. And whether that's true or not, I would have to definitely have to say that his style was definitely one of its own. And if you get a chance, get out there and listen to some of his stuff that he was a part of, whether it's those bands that I mentioned or something that he was an engineer on. You know, um, that being said, the next thing we're going to move on to is a newer artist that kind of came across my radar just this past week because, well, he has a new album. It's called, the name of the artist slash album band, yada yada yada. It's called Madhu Makar. Okay, I think I pronounced that correctly. He is a Tuareg songwriter slash musician based in Niger. This album that dropped right in front of it's called Funeral for Justice. You're looking for something a little bit different, definitely worth checking out by doing research for this and listening to the album itself. A lot of people have ranked it already kind of higher on the list of newer albums to have been released, and I know it just got released. 9 tracks, okay, altogether 39 minutes long. But then again, they kind of put it somewhere along the lines of desert blues, psychedelic rock. There is some loud guitars, it's quiet at times, but definitely worth checking that out if you get an opportunity or you get a chance. Anytime any of these artists that I find out new or old, definitely want to look into them. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we're not going to go into it too much, but one of my favorite songs is by Jethro Tull, Teacher. I don't really think of Teachers, I think of that guitar riff. Just thought I would play that. What else we got here on the docket here tonight? Okay, well, we've got coming up next, just coming up down the pipe, May 17th. May 17th, really close to Moa's birthday, which is great because Kerry King, the Kerry King of Slayer, who we've talked about quite a lot on this show because Slayer is awesome. He's got the very first solo album. Very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Really kind of cool and unique to find an artist who at this point in his career, he is going to be turning 60, is going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Coming out with a brand new solo album or starting a brand new solo career. I give him 100% more props than, I'm not going to mention other artists who kind of use the name and keep going through it. He's actually putting out something brand new. And the new album, which he will be releasing, is called "From Hell I Rise," which is pretty cool. That Kerry King's got an album coming out, and if you're a fan of Slayer, from what I've heard so far, it sounds like you're definitely in for a treat. Hello, my good man Brian. Thank you for joining me tonight. But then again, yes, if you are back to a fan of Slayer, I definitely suggest that you check out what he has going on this new album. Here is a little taste of that. Sounds definitely like if you enjoy Slayer, you're definitely going to enjoy this album. 13 tracks. Just last night, he came out and he did a whole show at Reggie's in Chicago, which is definitely an awesome, awesome place to see a concert. And it sounded, again, you're into Slayer. I mean, he did 11 of the 13 tracks off of this new solo album, but then he dug into 6 songs off of past Slayer songs, which another thing he said is he only decided to play songs that he wrote, nothing that other guitarist Jeff Hanneman wrote. He wanted to go out there, and he's out there and he is proving himself. We have mentioned on here before, Slayer has some reunion shows, a couple reunion shows, one coming up at the Riot Fest in Chicago. But again, any indication for just pretty much what this show went down last night, I mean, it sounds like we're in for what I would deem to be called a Slayer 2.0, because it sounds like he wants to just continue and keep the train rolling, which I'm all for. I'm also for some of the other guys that he's got in his band. He's got some really awesome players. Phil Demmel is playing guitars. Definitely, if you are not familiar with his work, he has just been a part of everything from Machine Head. He is also really kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? A great guitarist. Just an all around, what I would deem to be a good fit for this. He's also, done some, as doing research for this, and that's why I was looking through my notes a little shy. He's worked with, the lead singer Corey Glover, I'm sorry, of Living Color. And you say to yourself, somebody with this awesome repertoire of heaviness is playing with awesomeness of Living Color. That's what's cool. Great musician. It's really cool he's a part of this band, as is Paul Bostaff, who was he was in Slayer. So it's cool that Kerry has brought him along. So you've got, pretty much, you got Slayer going on here. So you're saying to yourself, pretty excited for this album that's going to be coming out right around the corner. Tim himself, he just pretty much he, between the message on the album, or he just sounds like listening to Kerry King, he just wants to get out there and just pretty much play, and he pretty much wants to share this music, which, again, as a fan of Slayer, and if you're a fan of Slayer out there, for the songs that have been released, or you can already go out and check out some of the live footage from last night's show at Reggie's, and you can kind of see what you're involved in. But back to being said is that Kyle Sanders is on bass, and and what's really cool is, again, I'm a really big fan of and Kyle Sanders, if you're not familiar, he was in the band Hell Yeah, which had for a time period Vinnie Paul of Pantera. So again, he's now working with Kerry King, and he's got Mark Asagueda, I hope I pronounced that correctly, on vocals. Okay. And if you're not familiar with where he's from a band called Death Angel. So put together quite the roster here. Had a first show yesterday. Great reviews. Check out this new album when it comes down out soon. and soon being just a couple days away, we're talking 9 days away. A lot of albums coming out that I see as the weeks progress here. So as we go, we might drop a little review here and go a little bit more in depth on an album that sounds to be like it's going to be really awesome. Kind of curious also to see what kind of the set list is going to be for those Slayer shows. So all around, excited if you are a fan of Slayer. Recently, which I find is always ridiculous, as we've talked about on here, but why not? We're going to just talk about it a little bit. Is these lists that I always see that magazines put together. A recent list that I have come across that has been dropped is Rolling Stone is going to tell us, the music listeners, what would be deemed 500 great songs. Everybody I think is going to have what I would deem to be a different opinion on what a great song would be. Some of us, we may agree on some of these songs. Okay, just by a quick look at the list. Okay, I know I've seen out there, a lot of people talk about Joy Division. They got 41. Love Will Tear Us Apart. Just the other day, I got a text message by my main man, Brian, telling me that it's an amazing song, and it is an amazing song. So I agree. That one could be listed as one of the top 100 songs of all time. But then on the same list, which I don't know if it's just musical taste, you move up a little bit at 46, and you have some MIA Paper Planes. Okay, I'm very familiar with the song. Not what I would deem to be it's a good song, but I'm telling you right now, it's 46 of the all-time songs. Okay, right underneath this, two more is My Girl by the Temptations, which I can see. I can see My Girl being one of the greatest songs of all time. I don't know. I often have this conversations quite a lot with people. Does greatness of a song, does it matter how long it lasts? Does it matter the importance to the person? I don't know how, again, you take a group of people, and you ask them what is, one of the greatest songs. And, I love this song. But as we go deeper here, number 36 is Seven Nation Army by White Stripes. And I love that song. And I love the White Stripes. And then 35 is Tutti Frutti by Little Richard. Kind of curious if it's kind of like a lot of different feelings in this list, which is, it's unique to the picking of the list. But just jumping ahead here to the top 10, which we got the 10. This is, now I want you to believe this is the 10 voted the 10 greatest songs of all time. Okay, we got Hey Ya by Outkast at number 10. Fleetwood Mac Dreams at 9. Missy Elliott, Get Your Freak On at 8. It's almost like, honestly, okay. And then 7 is Strawberry Fields Forever by the Beatles, which we love the Beatles here. So you can see that. What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, I can see that. Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Very important song. 5th of all time, I don't know. Like a Rolling Stone, Sam Cooke. Public Enemy, number 2, Fight the Power. Great song. Top 20, possibly. Number 2 of all time, I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're a huge Public Enemy fan, or a huge rap fan, I don't know. And then Aretha Franklin is Respect at number 1, who recently, a quick story, is a coworker of mine said that he had worked at a Cracker Barrel, and Mrs. Aretha Franklin came in, and she was not too nice. Did not show, from what I heard, she did not show any respect. But that, again, that's what was voted as the number 1 list song on this. But just a quick jump to, let's go to really quick here. Number 396, Elvis Costello, Allison. Amazing song. To me, again, I don't know where Allison by Elvis Costello gets at 396, and Missy Elliott is even in the top 10, but that's why these lists are ridiculous. And just thought I'd bring up those ridiculous points as I was scrolling through that this past week. Also, for some reason, whenever I think of musical instruments, I think of Rickenbacker. We've mentioned that company on here quite a lot, and they're amazing basses that everybody from Cliff Burton have played to the Birds on the guitar side of things. But that being said, just recently, 1931, what made me think of this is this company 93 years ago was founded, and the way you go, and me a lot of times for any musical instruments, and if you got the time out there, I suggest that you do this too, is just going back and looking through some of the history, because a lot of musical instruments, the history is just so like rich, and honestly, it's interesting just to see, like, for instance, with the Rickenbacker, REM, Mike Campbell of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the real awesome, the Jam, all huge Rickenbacker players. Which in all of those bands, they have a very, very specific sound to the work that they were doing, and the real reason is because, well, the sound, you know. Um, there was one of the early introductions of the 4001 model was played by everybody of the day, from Chris Squire of Yes and Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. Um, just definitely an instrument that I would say deserves to be looked at just a little bit deeper, and still, is one that is they're very huge at people making copies of their work. So they're very, very huge to stick up for what they believe in their models and in their equipment. So just thought I'd do a shout out to Rickenbacker, because a lot of the artists that we talk about on this show definitely use Rickenbacker instruments. Recently, online, I started thinking about artists who are great musicians, and they kind of are, well, in some regards, could be listed as underrated. Some of the artists that I mentioned in Kerry King's band, some of those, for some, could be listed as underrated because they're awesome, and not a lot of people know who they are because of, for one reason or another, we have to look deeper on some of these artists, and even some artists that kind of go to the wayside. An artist that recently kind of made me think of this whole entire thing, where there's a couple artists that made me think of this whole thing. One is um, Jeff Buckley, who had an amazing, amazing album in Grace, and unfortunately passed away before having to come out with more work. So you always sit and think to yourself, what kind of music, or what's more that could have been put out by an artist like this? Because the one album that we do have, it's strong with great musicianship. So a lot of artists like Jeff, it's you're left with a lot of what ifs. A lot of artists have kind of taken Jeff's mold even and continued it as their own, when unfortunately an artist like Jeff Buckley only got to make the one album. So a lot of people can see what he had and see some of the success that he was looking towards and capitalize on that. That happens quite a bit too. Another band that is just loaded with talent, that some people kind of ignore a little bit, and that is they're called Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. Just really, really awesome musicianships in this band. Um, Again, a band that is if you ever get a chance to listen to them or hear them deeply, just a lot of different sounds going on. Some call them jazz, some it's progressive, a little bluegrass. They definitely do jam. But the players in the band, when they get together, you're talking about high quality musicianship, which is exactly, Victor Wooten, if you have not ever sat down and just listened to anything by Victor Wooten on the bass, he is definitely amazing, and definitely his playing style is one of a kind. He's won 5 Grammy Awards, Bass Player of the Year, Bass Player Magazine, top 10, back to the Rolling Stone list. He's in the top 10 of all time. But that being said, not a lot of people out there that I run into go, oh, let's have a conversation about Victor Wooten. Let's have her, and even other, players in the band. Roy Wooten, who's his nickname's Future Man, is definitely another player who's just, when you hear Bella Fleck and the Flecktones playing, and Bella Fleck's definitely an amazing player in his own right. Just the way he can play the banjo and make the banjo sound a lot like you wouldn't think a banjo would sound like. But again, it's another way to kind of look deeper into an artist. But back to some of the artists that Steve Albini was working with. Lots and lots and lots and lots of great musicians that don't really ever really get remembered too much. At the beginning of that letter that I mentioned earlier, okay, he was working with a band called Fugazi. If you have not taken the time and know anything about Fugazi, guitarist, vocalist Ian MacKaye. I think of him as, again, when we talk about musicians, I'm not talking about somebody who can just play guitar solos like some artists, and a lot of artists can do that. It could be, what are you expressing? How are you expressing yourself? And Ian MacKaye is an excellent example through Fugazi, through, Minor Threat, through just Discord Records, just through a whole lot of different philosophies that he's had. Definitely doesn't get what I would deem to be called the sometimes in the circles of conversation, just all the things he's been a part of. You know what I mean? He's been a part of over 15 Fugazi albums, all of what Minor Threat was a part of. That's huge. Definitely needs to be recognized and remembered. A lot of times on here, we talk about a lot of different, funk artists, and you could just go through here and spend the whole entire show on all of the musicians that passed through Parliament Funkadelic. A band that we've covered a couple times. The guitar players, we're not even going to talk about anyone else. Just really quick here, we're going to talk about a couple of the guitar players that found themselves passing through the band. Eddie Hazel. If you have not listened to Maggot Brain and you have not listened to the guitar solo that is a part of that, I think it's definitely a must to do that. Glenn Goins. I'm sure you're not familiar with him or his guitar playing. He was huge in the band. Passed away, unfortunately, of Hodgkin's lymphoma at the age of 24. But his contributions to Mothership Connection, Clones of Dr. Frankenstein, Funkadelic versus the Placebo Syndrome, singing lead vocals on Bop Gun. I mean, if you have not played Bop Gun, that is a 9-minute jam. And when you're saying somebody who's 22, 21 is busting that song out, Glenn Goins is amazing. Rest in peace, Glenn Goins. Awesome on a show like this and a show like tonight. We can go back and even talk about any of these artists. That's what is awesome about having the show. And, it's also awesome is that, teachers in general this week, I would deem, music teachers out there, huge importance. Music teachers out there do not get to sometimes get the respect that they deserve. So everybody out there, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really, really great show. If you get an opportunity, please head on down to the we got a lot of awesome stuff in the store. We got this awesome It's Getting Drafty shirt in there. We got a brand new At the Show podcast, which will be returning this Sunday at 2 p.m. to talk about bad baseball flicks. Last time we talked 2 weeks ago, good baseball flicks. Now we're talking bad baseball flicks. Check out the awesome articles on the Sadistic Penguin Studios webpage. Please check out all the cool stuff on the YouTube page and all the music tonight that we shared. Share it with other people. Talk up that new Kerry King. Talk up that all those artists that are underrated, from Glenn Goins of Parliament to that Jeff Buckley album. Always, 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 please remember to honor your teachers. My name is Tony. This is the Hookup on Music, and as like I like to say every week, I really appreciate you just taking the time to listen. No joking. It means a lot. And hopefully soon, even outside of these audio walls, we can meet up at a concert and we could talk more music. Or if you ever want to just come out and send a message or join the conversation, it's always open, my friend. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a great week. Take care.